From 1976 to 2003, we had something that felt like the future. The Concorde, a commercial airliner that flew at supersonic speeds. A trip from New York to London that now takes around 7 hours used to take just about 3.5. On record-setting flights, it could be under 3. The same journey that once took the Titanic nearly 6 days had become a 3-hour cruise. Just enough time to watch Titanic on board. The Concorde became more than just a plane. It was elegance, engineering genius, and speed all wrapped into one. Seeing it land was an event. It looked different. It sounded different. People would stop and stare. And then in 2003, it was gone. We once had commercial supersonic travel, and we let it slip away. What happened? One Concorde now rests at the Smithsonian, and the curator who helped get it there flew on it himself. He remembers seeing the sky turn a deep violet at 60,000 feet, an experience few people on Earth have had. So why did something so advanced, so awe-inspiring, fade into history? The dream of supersonic transport, any flight faster than the speed of sound, was born after Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in 1947. In the decades that followed, Cold War rivalries and blind faith in technology pushed nations to pour money into developing the fastest jets imaginable. In 1967, Boeing won a U.S. contract to build a supersonic transport. It even inspired the name of Seattle's NBA team, the Supersonics. But that project was scrapped in 1971 when the funding dried up. The Soviet Union's Tu-144 had a brief and troubled run, ending after just 55 flights. That left Concorde, a joint effort between Britain and France. Concorde wasn't designed on computers. It was built through formulas, sketches, and a lot of trial and error. Every element had to be reimagined for supersonic flight. Its shape was long and slender, necessary to handle high speeds. The paint had to reflect extra heat, from air friction. The windows, hot to the touch during flight. Fuel was constantly being shifted midair to maintain balance. The systems were incredibly complex, but worked so smoothly you didn't even notice. What made Concorde instantly recognizable was its wing, a curved delta design that gave it lift at takeoff and reduced drag in the air. That shape, though, meant the plane had to land at a steep angle. Since the pilots couldn't see the runway from that angle, engineers came up with a clever fix: a drooping nose. Yes, the droop snoot. At cruising speed, Concorde flew at Mach 2, more than twice the speed of sound and faster than the Earth rotates. You couldn't feel the speed, but a Mach meter inside the cabin told you. The moment it hit Mach 1, passengers would cheer. At 60,000 feet, you could see the curve of the planet. It wasn't just travel, it was an experience. Flight attendants wore designer uniforms. Meals were gourmet. Celebrities like Sting raved about it. He once joked that flying Concorde meant arriving in New York before you even left London, thanks to the time difference. But for all its flair, Concorde had problems. In 2000, an Air France Concorde burst a tire on takeoff, which led to fuel tank rupture and a deadly crash. All 113 on board died. Concorde was grounded until 2001, but by then, the aviation industry had been shaken by the 9/11 attacks. Still, the end wasn't just about tragedy. The plane was loud, especially during takeoff, and the sonic booms it created caused real issues. A test in Oklahoma City during the 1960s left residents with broken windows and noise complaints, effectively banning supersonic flights over land. That limited Concorde to routes over oceans, cutting off major markets like cross-country U.S. travel. There were environmental worries, too. Concorde flew so high that scientists feared its exhaust had harmed the ozone layer more than regular aircraft. And it wasn't exactly fuel efficient. It burned through fuel at a staggering rate, limiting its range and driving up costs. With a small cabin of just 100 to 120 seats, tickets had to be expensive, sometimes up to $12,000, just to keep it viable. Airlines also needed special crews, costly maintenance, and even backup Concordes ready to go just in case. You couldn't afford to disappoint a Concorde passenger. All of this made Concorde incredibly costly to operate. Airbus, responsible for maintenance, decided it wasn't worth upgrading the aging fleet. The cockpit was still analog, and a third crew member, a flight engineer, was required. Upgrading the planes would have cost a fortune, and with no new Concords in the pipeline, the economics didn't make sense. Concorde was like a limited edition masterpiece, beautiful but hard to mass produce. While a toy plane can be sold cheaply thanks to scale, real aircraft need that same kind of mass production to stay profitable. Concorde never had it. So even though it could turn a profit on certain flights, the infrastructure to keep it going wasn't sustainable. We tend to imagine progress ending with disaster, but sometimes it just fizzles out, burdened by complexity, cost, and changing priorities. A breathtaking wing and a signature droop snoot weren't enough. Supersonic travel needs more than speed. It needs a solid business plan, political will, and room to grow. New ideas for supersonic jets are still being floated, but the challenges Concorde faced haven't gone away. Until they're solved, we're back to slow flights and long hauls. Something magical was lost when Concorde disappeared. It gave us a reason to look up, literally and figuratively. It represented the edge of possibility, a vision of what flying could be. Ironically, despite all that wonder, Concorde wasn't all that comfortable. The legroom was okay, but the cabin was cramped. Even Sting looked squeezed in his seat. Still, for 3 short hours, it felt like flying into the future.